Every damn day. Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 52 of Every Damn Day. And I've got a great friend, Vance, here, and we're going to talk about active heroin recovery. How you doing today?
Today, I'm a little nervous at the moment, but I'm doing well. Things have been good today, and I'm appreciative to be alive and sitting with a friend. I appreciate you, Jerry, what you do here at the Fledge and supporting the organization that I align myself with, Punks with Lunch, and it's been a good morning. Talked to a lot of addicts in the streets, and remember where I came from, and it's a good day. Hopefully, I can spread a little hope. I consider myself a hope dealer, and try to share my strength, hope, and experience. But people who are struggling, they realize that I understand.
Yeah. Why don't we're going to talk about the night you've had, I think, a little bit, and that hope dealing in a minute. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you, like where you're from and all that stuff?
Well, I'm from Lansing. I went to school, a lot of different grade schools. I went to West Junior downtown, was no longer there. And then I never went to high school. I kind of went into the juvenile system. I come from a family of 6 siblings. One of my sisters died, Nancy Beth, and it's kind of an alcoholic father, abusive, mother that was just a Puritan, peaceful pacifist with an open mind of all humanity, and total opposite with my father, who was pretty whacked out on alcohol. So I was introduced to that stuff early on, and it took its toll. But I processed stuff through the years and got to a point where I'm not using. I understand how to feel and to realize I can step out and ask for help. And I do so regularly with 12-step meetings and coming here to the Fledge.
Do you mind if I ask you how long you've used?
Yes, I do. But no, just kidding. Well, I started at 14. I was strung out at 14, and I kept going until I was like 33. But there was intervals where I was incarcerated in the juvenile system, then as an adult into the county jails, and after that into the prison system. But I was still using in there, but not as often. So I've been clean this time 6 years. I went 15 straight years. And in 2003, I started drinking beer, then weed, then Oxycontin. And my goal was to not feel what I was feeling and go back to the familiar, the heroin.
Yeah.
It was like a mama's hug, but you come out of it and you feel worse then than you did when you started. So it's been a long road, but there's a lot of positivity in my life. It wasn't all disaster and trouble. There was a lot of people that encouraged me, that were understanding and acceptable, in the 60s, mid 60s, forward CIA inundated the streets of the United States, most of the poor neighborhoods. I grew up in the north in Lansing, but I moved to the west side, and it was predominantly black, and that's where the heroin landed by design. I'm sure Louis Farrakhan expounds upon that, and other scholars and spiritual leaders about how it evolved and what's become of it today. But I'm a survivor. I've survived a lot of things, heroin addiction, getting shot, stabbed, kidnapped, cancer, a whole bunch of things. Hep C, which is prevalent in the drug world, sharing needles and such. And
so 15 years, and then you're good for 6 now. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where that hope comes from, right? Because you get a lot of messages when you have a substance disorder or what have you, and a lot of messages that, this is never going to be over. Mm-hmm. This is it. This is what your life is going to be like. Mm-hmm. How do you deal that hope?
Like I said in the onset, strength, hope, and experience, I had to experience it. I never knew how to feel. All I knew how to do is run from my feelings. The trauma that was going on in my home. I left at 14 and never went back. My father finally left the house, and my mother was at peace, a lot better. So it was a lot of trauma there. Like I said, I didn't know how to feel. All I knew was I was just balling nerves and everything. I was, constantly covering up, and that's not healthy. And I didn't have any place to go with the positive mentors to, help me to understand what was going on with me. And it took years of, hit and miss, and a couple of people were encouraging. Then, it just wasn't working. And I didn't know how to process all that stuff. And it was a big ball of confusion. And, today I still struggle. I have PTSD, ADHD. I call it a triangle of contention. There's ADHD up here. Then there's the PTSD up here. Then it turns into depression. So the ADHD, you're kind of bouncing all over. And then when things happen, you try to do 15 things at once, it's not working. I get frustrated. Then the PTSD is set off with memories and things that, incite the PTSD, which is, it's like a gorilla on steroids, shaking you up, and, your nerves are rattled. And then when you come down off that PTSD trip, the depression sets in, and the depression is lessened now, although it's February in Michigan, and, everybody's kind of feeling it, but things are good today. I'm not using, I don't have an inkling of a desire to use. I woke up, I kind of passed out studying last night. I passed the Michigan real estate broker's license, but I haven't finished the online course to show the certification to make application with the state, as I mentioned to you a few months back. But I kind of passed out doing that. So it was better than passing out drunk or, high on drugs. But I got up at 12:04 and I couldn't go back to sleep. And I just kept ruminating about things that I can't change, people, places, and things. And then finally I started exercising and breathing, and I said, man, I need to get out to the street. So I grabbed Narcan and clean needles and went down to CAT bus station, which is a hub for drug dealing and users. And I ran into quite a few addicts. A couple of them that we recovered. I recovered for a year, two different fellas. That was very inspirational to me. And that's why I go out there, because if I don't get outside myself, I can get into a funk and stay there a while. And that's not a good spot.
Yeah. So did they take the Narcan?
Oh, yeah, I ran out. That's why I'm over here at the Fletcher today to come to get more in a backpack, because I was walking around with a sack. And it's kind of weird because, I'm down at it's a municipal place, right? But they got guards running around. I'm thinking, like, it felt like I was dealing drugs. I'm like, don't let them see what I'm doing, because it's to save lives and not to destroy society. So, yeah, it's been a long day, but it's been rewarding to get outside myself. Being selfless is so much better than being selfish. And, addicts and alcoholics and anyone doing what we do in addiction, whether it's gambling or sex or whatever, it's a very selfish spot to be in. I don't want to be that person today, and I'm not.
Yeah.
It's a joy to getting to know who I truly am. Even at my age, we can all grow. Every day to me is like a professor's lecture. I learn from you every time I see you, and I learn from watching people, and it's a good day, Jerry. I appreciate you having me on here.
Well, I love having you on. I always love our conversations, whether they're 30 seconds or 30 minutes. So,
right.
Excuse me. No problem. So I want to come back to you a little bit, because
Yes.
you were talking about how you couldn't feel, and there's pain there that needs to be felt. And feeling that pain is kind of like sticking your hand in a candle and knowing to, get away from it. How are you dealing with that pain now? And I don't mean to tell us all the pains and all that, but
Sure.
What type of things are you doing day in and day out that can help with that, that other people can also do?
You asked me earlier before we started if I meditated, and I do. I don't sit in my thoughts. A lot of it, like I say, is when I'm doing stuff, but I just try to stay focused, man. I had to go back. Let me divert a little bit. I had to go back when we moved to the west side. We lived on Lahoma Street, which is a block west of MLK, and I drove by there 6-8 months ago, and a lot of closure. I had to realize. I drove by our old house, and I was talking to that kid that was so confused and pained, and I said, "It's not your fault. and it wasn't, but I always took that shame and guilt that it must be me, Father was telling me that. But to deal with the pain it's incredible, because I realized the majority of it, my mother used to say 10% is what's happening, Vance, and 90% is what you interpret. And I see that now, and that's true. And I'm not being abused. I'm not, holding on to that stuff. I look at it, the past is just a reference, and in reference point, no place to live. It's depressing. In the future is the anxiety. So I had to stay in the moment. And I think just being honest and being kind to other people, where I was mean spirited and I wasn't honest. I was, junkies aren't honest. They're a pretty deceitful bunch. But dealing with the pain is, I talk to people. I go see a psychologist who's ADHD. He plays music, and he come from a screwed up background. He's an addict. He's a recovering addict, and we click. It's healthy for me. It's a safe spot I can go to and talk. And that's where the majority of it is. I have a kind woman, Bethany, my partner, and she don't come from the same background, but she understands. And I appreciate you, Bethany. I know you're out there, and you know it. And, it still hurts. The things that have happened still hurt, but I have to realize it's not happening now. And that's the importance of, breathing and staying in the moment. And sometimes it's not so easy. So I think just reaching outside of myself. I live real close to the Rise Recovery Clubhouse on the west side. So I can walk to a meeting at any given time, and I do pretty regularly. In fact, I went there this morning after going to the bus stop in downtown around Jim Ho and such, looking for addicts and talking to the ones that I identified with. It was great. I got a couple hugs from, a couple users, and they're talking about rehab, but they've been talking about it a while. You probably know who they are, but I know you do know who they are. I mean, we won't mention their names. Yeah. I call it hope dealing, because I tell them, I have to go outside myself, and I think grasp other people's pain and realize that I'm not there. That was yesterday, and I've come further than that. So I hope that's making sense as an answer.
When somebody's out there and they're using, they don't have the best support system to guide them into recovery. And when they're not using and they're feeling that way, they might come in here or go into Rise or go to a meeting, but then there's a quick out, or at least they think there's a quick out to getting rid of that pain. And whether it's pouring alcohol over it or shooting up or whatever, it seems easier to go that way. But when you're there and you step in the way, maybe you can divert them just a little bit over, and
yeah, I see that, because you see the spark in them when I look, man, I gave away everything I had. I didn't lose nothing. I gave everything. I had real estate, career, wife, home, jewelry, all the stuff I thought would make me happy. It does not make you happy. However, I can identify with them. I can see them, one wolf will recognize another. You can spot the active users, and I have empathy for it, sympathy as well. And yeah, it helps me to realize that I don't have it so bad. When I'm feeling that pain, and I do, not constantly, but there's times when, like I said, it's February in Michigan, man, everybody's feeling it, but I don't have to go back there and stay there. I can touch it, like I say, in the reference point, the past, but stuff isn't happening today. And that's a beauty about breathing, as I was mentioning to you, then holding your breath, because the immediate thing brings you right back to the present. I need to breathe. Am I going to have a heart attack? I probably should not pass out. I need to breathe. And then, I'm right here in the present. And I'm not a religious person, but there's an adage that says each day is a gift from God. That's why we call it the present. And every time I open my eyes, I realize I have another gift to help somebody else to heal within my own self. Dr. Albert Schweitzer said every patient carries within themselves their own physician. It's in there. Tolstoy talks about that happiness doesn't come from external things; it comes from within. And I didn't realize that, because I thought, the money, the career, all that stuff, it didn't make me happy. I was still empty, even though I had went 15 straight years clean and sober. I didn't identify with what I needed to identify, the emptiness within. And now it's full. Usually, most days it's full. You've seen me around for some years now, since you all moved to the east side and here in Lansing. But yeah. It's just like life. I tell people in meetings, and say, everybody wants the mountaintop experience, man, but the richer soils in the valley. When you're down in that shit, you're feeling it. That's when you're growing, and it's difficult as fuck, man. It really is. But yeah, I'm happy to be alive, man. I'm happy to be clean. I get high on just knowing that I'm safe.
Yeah.
I put myself in a good spot, and there's people who support me, yourself included, and the punks and a whole bunch of other people in this city, outreaches and stuff that it's encouraging. Like I said, when I go to the streets, that is an encouragement to me, and I don't think of myself any better than anybody else, but I realize I'm better off, and therefore I need to pay it forward. And it's a good day. Today's been fruitful, and
It'd be great if we could pull everybody up and get them out, right?
yeah, you can't save everyone.
Then we'd have a lot more people to work with and move the next level up and try to win this fight against poverty and
Yes.
oppression and all this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about punks a little bit. We are going to have Julia on the show, I think April 1st. But tell us the work you do with them and a little bit about punks. We can plug them a bunch of times.
Sure, yeah, I love them, man. We got plugged at the Nut House the other night. Bethany's friend's band was playing. It's shout out to the punks lunch, And well, I first met Julia and Martin and Melissa, the core, the backbone, the heartbeat of punks 5 years ago when they first started. I just been in my first year of recovering. I was a hot mess. I hated everything. It was everybody's fault. That's addict. It was their fault. It wasn't my fault. Of course it was, but you're in denial. And they had a thing on Facebook saying that they were doing a riverfront cleanup over here by the steakhouse. Before you go into MSU on the Kalamazoo, they had a big encampment out there. I went homeless after I started using actively again. I gave away house, rentals, wife, car, dogs, my career, all that stuff. And I just, shut down. But in that first year, I was miserable. I didn't know what to do. Every 5 minutes, it was 5 minutes. I couldn't think about tomorrow because I was like, man, I don't want to get high today. I can't get high today. It's not an option. But I walked down the river trail and Melissa and Julia gave me some trash bags. I'm here to clean up. Okay, cool. Go down here. Where's so-and-so? I said, oh, cool. And I'm walking down the bike trail. I'm like, there's no trash out here. And I went over a berm and the whole encampment had been flooded and washed down into this gully. And it was just tents and coolers. And I could see their life. And a lot of the people I knew that were up in there. And Martin come marching over the hill, his military background. Hey, you all right? I said, no, I'm overwhelmed. Because you need a sandwich? I said, no, I don't need a fucking sandwich. I need somebody to help me. I can't pick up all this. She goes, oh, we're going to get some help right now, So I've been coming back since we started putting together sandwiches. We feed people at Rudder Park every other Saturday and set up tables down there and give out sandwiches, hot food that when we have it, hygiene kits, things for everyday living necessities, clothing and harm reduction with clean needle exchange, Narcan. And so I've been coming back periodically, At first I couldn't go downtown to Rudder Park because I was running into the people that the shot dope was sold to, and it was just too depressing. It was overwhelming. So I'd go there and make sandwiches. And then eventually, as I grew in sobriety and grew in myself, becoming stronger as a person, I'm able to go down there now. My function is, like I said, hope dealing. I don't stand at the table and pass out sandwiches and none of that stuff. I go out with the people who are hanging out and stuff. And like I said, I know some of them, they know me, and even more people now know who I am. And they know my background through, word of mouth is best advertisement. And it's good. And that's what I do. Wherever I'm led in my heart and in the spirit, go talk to the people. I'll give you an example. I was talking to a girl. Her name is Kim. And she was miserable. She said, Vance, I got up this morning. I needed to get high and I didn't have nothing to sell. I realized I sold everything. Then I was thinking, whose stuff can I sell? And everybody don't trust me. So she's just like, I didn't want to be alive. And I started talking to her. And I'm talking and it's just coming out of me. The spirit's flowing through me. And she said, what did you just say? I said, I don't know. I don't know is what I needed to hear too. And she said, we both started crying. I had to get up and Bethany and her kids were over there. And I just I need a hug, but it's incredible because the calling isn't from me. I'm a pretty selfish person as most human beings are, but I've learned to become selfless by listening to this spirit. And I think that's important in my life and everyone's life to be, balanced spirit, soul, and body. And if you're not, and I wasn't spiritually fit, demons jumping all over me, shoot dope, go get drunk. No, that's not happening. And I've become more rounded as a human and as a man. And it's a good day, Jerry.
Yeah.
I'm kind of trailing off with the ADD, but
No, you're not. I
no,
love what you're talking about.
thank
But
you.
so, you were out using and in the streets for a long time.
Hmm.
What, obviously your childhood, I'm not talking about that. What as a community could we have done better to support you and help you?
Oh man, it was different times. There was none of this going on back then. Really, there was a few things. There was a woman named Ernestine McMullen, one of the founding feminists, one of the founding people who initiated substance abuse training, and,
Mhm.
getting with people to open rehabs and the methadone clinic, which I don't support whatsoever. We're struggling in the world. If the government supports it, they probably shouldn't take it, and they do. Anybody who walk in there, it's worse than heroin, and it has a longer lasting effect than titration. But Ernestine McMullen, I went to school with her son and daughter, and they found her son in the river, and he was using drugs, but he was murdered. But she was a sweetheart, and that was probably the only place in town that you could actually go to where people were accepting of you, especially at a young age. And that's where my initial spark of hope came from. I didn't get clean and sober at all, but I seen the love in her because I knew her, and she was, I seen what she did in the community. And it takes community activists like yourself who are willing to sacrifice your own life and to step up and stand up for people that everybody wants to, they're discarded. You see people out here on the streets, most of them are mentally ill, or they're traumatized like myself and have mental afflictions like myself, ADHD, PTSD and such. But people want to discard that. Back when I was coming up, I have a brother that is schizophrenic. He's been in adult foster care since like 1971, but he would never go to sleep. He just kept doing speed and speed and speed, and he just flipped out. And no one talked about mental health. Even my own family, we've seen it, but we didn't know what the hell to do. We didn't talk about it. It was just at different times. Now it's everywhere. There's help everywhere, and it's good. But yeah, that's basically. It was a different time. It was like Neanderthal times, man. People were backward, and now it's more accepting and more understanding because, the rich people got kids that are all strung out. And, it isn't just the poor people and the people, beautiful melanin,
Yeah.
full of melanin, man. And I grew up on the west side. I didn't grow up until I was 33 and got clean and sober. But I grew up in the north end, and I ran with mostly Mexicans and Indians. And when I moved to the west side, I was the only kid in class that didn't have an afro in 1966, in sixth grade. And it was like, wow. But they were accepting of me, most of them. It was like 7 of us in the school that weren't black. So I got a different glimpse of society from the real side. These kids were like me. They
Yeah.
weren't no different. They were just beautifully, chocolate chips, man. They were cool as hell. And I still have friends today. In fact, one of them was an active user, and I try to keep in touch with him, clean needles. And I love him, man. We used to run together back in the day, and I'm happy he's still alive. Most of my friends, actually every one of them that I ran with are gone. Not just from overdose murderers, and just wore their bodies out. Alcohol addiction and such. But I'm a survivor, cancer survivor, hepatitis C, shooting, stabbing, incarceration, cancer. I said that. So yeah.
Well, as we kind of start to wrap up, what's something that anybody who's listening, whether they're using or they're supporting a user, not supporting, but they're there for them,
Mhm.
even supporting, whatever that
Sure,
means.
sure.
Anybody,
Supportive.
yeah. What's something that somebody could do today that could help just a little bit, and if we all did it, it becomes this flood of help or hope?
Man, let's reach out to the first person you see every day. Say a kind word. You don't know who you're gonna touch. Compliment their shoes. Just be there. Be there. The human connection is pretty much fragmented at this point. Especially with 2020 and COVID, and the heartbeat of, or the temperature of the political scene is just, it's meant to be. It's like a Machiavellian mentality where they separate the masses and they can control them, and fear is the thing. Don't be afraid to reach out and touch someone. And most people want that, but we don't know how to say it. I never know how to say, hey, can you hug me? Can you just sit down and talk to me? And that's one thing I always liked about you when I came around. You were always available, even though you're busy as hell bouncing out the wall like a ping pong ball. Like, how does he do this stuff? But I think that people just need to realize that we're all the same. We're humans. And to me, there is no race. There's only one race, and it's human. There's a lot of melanin color phobias, but there's only one race, and just be accepting of others and reach out. There's all kinds of resources worldwide now where, like I say, when I came up, there wasn't, none of that stuff was going on. I shouldn't say none of it. It was very little that was obvious. And so just reach out and touch yourself, man. Not yourself. It's a little
the show's going south now.
Yeah, it's going. We need to off the air. So yeah, just reach out and touch someone, man. See someone out there, just talk to people. The human connection is the most powerful thing there is, as you know. And I guess that's what it.
I love what you're saying. Can you imagine being surrounded with everybody that you run into today is full of hope, and that hope builds really like drops of water build a river.
Mm-hmm.
Hope builds a little smile at a time, a compliment at a time. Even eye contact when the guy's holding the sign, everyone's acting like they're on their phone and twerking the radio or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Well, good advice.
Thank you.
We cover everything?
No, but we got a good start, Jerry. I'll be back. I don't know about on this podcast, but I'll be around.
Well, thank you so very much for everything that you're doing. I love you too. And shout out to Punks with Lunch. And
yes.
Love seeing you around. Thanks for doing the show. We love you all. Have a great day today, and we will see you tomorrow on another Every Damn Day.